JAC Shop here. How you doing? This is James. I'm coming back onto this 1995 Chevrolet intake manifold. At this point, I've actually got all the components unbolted, and I've got some purple stuff from you can buy it in the automotive shop store, and I've sprayed down all the connecting areas of the intake manifold so that I can clean it. It actually is pointing at the number one on the distributor. I'm not on top dead center though. You can see down in there. I don't know if you can see it, but see if we can get down in here a little better. But it is not on top dead center yet. So what I've got to do is I'm going to have to roll the engine around to top dead center. I could leave it right there, but just in case something does get moved or does have to get moved, it's better to bring it up where that marks at top dead center. That way you don't have any problems. You aim that at number one, that's at top dead center of that mark, and you're good to go when you put it back together. You could do it like it is right now and just not move anything, as far as moving the engine or doing anything, and it wouldn't hurt anything. You could stick it back in and make sure that you put the distributor back in the same direction that it's in. And of course you can see it's almost directly pointing at that dot right here on my intake manifold. And so you can get adjusted the idea of where you're at. That's number one right there, that dot, and it's going to be pointing right there at that dot. So I'm very close to where I needed to be, except for I'm not on top dead center. So I'm going to bring it around the top dead center. I'm going to take and spray this off and clean it real good. We don't want any of that grime that you're seeing here. And there's some leaves and stuff like that. Of course, this vehicle's a 1995. It's been going for a long time. We want to make sure we clean all that off so that it doesn't get down inside the engine. And of course, when you remove this intake manifold, it opens you up to the valves and everything else, so that all this stuff could dump down in there and get inside your cylinders and actually, or your valves, and mess your seats or mess your something with your pistons and your rings and all that up. So you don't want to have anything fall down in there. You want to make sure you clean it real good so that nothing gets in there. And then I'm going to unbolt it. You want to make note of all the different types of patterns of these bolts, as far as this one has where something bolts to it. You can see it's got the threads. So you want to make sure that you look at that. Of course, you got your bracket here. Right here too, because something was there. There was a bracket that bolted to this, and back here. So you want to make sure you make note of all that. I've tied all my wiring off to the side. You'll see it over here, tied off. And I'm going to change the coolant inlet right here. You can see, I hope you can see, it's where this connects down on there. I'm going to make sure I change those. I don't like those. I'd rather have something that tightens down directly and goes right to the heater core instead of having a quick connect. I'm a little worried those leak. A little bit of the pressure when I'm trying to build up pressure in the engine and pressure test it and everything. So I want to make sure that I get that alleviated. And I did see that the distributor cap had a lot of corrosion, like moisture was getting in there. I do believe that cap wasn't fitting quite perfect. When you look at the cap, when you look at this cap and you look inside of here, you can see that on one side there's some heavy corrosion on those terminal points, and then on the other side there's hardly none at all. So that tells me that it wasn't really hitting concentric. It was a little eccentric, which kind of bothers me. I don't like it. So I'm going to change it, and I'm going to get a, this was a, well, it says standard right in there. So I'm not sure whether it was just, I don't know, maybe it was within spec, but I don't like the fact that it's got a little heavier corrosion on one side than it did the other on the terminals in there. That tells me it wasn't quite sitting on there good. I did take it apart and check it real good and make sure that, you know, it slid right back on. All the screws were in, the hole's perfect, and it was sitting on there perfect. So it had nothing to do with the way that it was mounted. It just has to do with the centering of the particular cap. I don't know, it just corroded more on one side than it did the other, so obviously it was letting moisture in as well because of the corrosion in there. So I'm going to get rid of the cap and get me a new one, cap and rotor, and clean all this up. I'm going to clean all that up, make sure we get that cleaned up. Going to replace the line to the heater core there, where there's that quick connect there and here. I'm going to make sure that I replace all that stuff. And when I get her cleaned up, I'll be taking all the bolts out, and I'll take that distributor off. Whenever I go to move it around to top dead center, I'll bring you back. I did go ahead and, like I said, I brought a flashlight out. I know, found the mark, and it's 4 degrees before top dead center. And I don't know if you can see it from here, but the mark is right there. And I got to bring the mark up around to top dead center. It's pointing in the right direction right now to be at number 1, but it's not on the right stroke. It's a 4-stroke engine. We got to be on the top dead center. We got to be on the compression stroke all the way up. So that's what we need to do. We need to bring it to top dead center, make sure that mark's lined up, make sure that's pointing at number 1. I could do it where it's at, but if anybody moved anything, then I'd be right back to square one. I'd have to bring that to where that mark's up and start over with the distributor. But I do know where it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to be pointing at the number 1 and that mark be on the mark, so at 4 degrees before top dead center. So I mean, it's not difficult. It's just a matter of just do it right the first time. Get the mark lined up, get that pointing at number 1, which it is pointing at number 1. It's just not on the right stroke. And then pull the intake manifold, pull the distributor, and then scrape it down, clean it some more, change the gaskets, put it back together. Alright, this is JAC Shop. Like and subscribe. Thank you.